Welcome to Grace Hill OnAir. Today's podcast is brought to you by SphereX.com, interactive marketing solutions.
Welcome to today's episode of Grace Hill On Air. I am Kara Rice, and we have declared August to be Maintenance Appreciation Month at Grace Hill. We are trying to spread that message throughout the apartment industry as a whole. We are shining a spotlight on all things service-related this month, and to help us do that here with our podcast, we've invited a very special guest. Mark Cukro is here with us today. Welcome to our podcast, Mark.
Thanks, Kara.
All right, today Mark is going to share with us his thoughts on three things related to maintenance. First and foremost, we're going to talk a little bit about career paths for maintenance professionals. We're also going to hit on green technologies. And finally, he's going to give us some insights on his thoughts relating to maintenance appreciation. But before we dive in, let me give you a little bit of a lowdown on Mark's experience. Mark is the president of Plus One Consulting, and he is also the founder of ServiceTeamTraining.com. He is a national speaker and a leading resource in the field of service team development and training. Now, before Mark started his own company, he worked in the field as the director of service team development for Colonial Properties Trust, and there he oversaw the training and development for just a small group of folks, about 148 communities and over 48,000 apartment homes. So that's actually quite a large team, I'm sure, Mark. Mark's certifications include CAPS, CAM-T1, CAM-T2, CPO, CPO Instructor with the National Swimming Pool Foundation, EPA Proctor for 608, 609, and R410A certifications, and he is a proctor for all HVAC Excellence courses. Mark is an NAA instructor, and he's worked on the development of the new CAM-T program. I also had the pleasure to work very closely with Mark when we collaborated on the Grace Hill Basic Maintenance Series. Mark is the author of our Basic Electrical, Basic HVAC, and Basic Plumbing courses at Grace Hill. So we've got a history of working very well together. Delighted to have you here with us today, Mark. Thanks for making the time for us.
Glad to be here.
All right, we are going to get things started by talking about the role of the Regional Maintenance Director, Mark. Something that we have noticed here at Grace Hill is kind of the emergence of a new position within the maintenance field. We've seen that some companies are moving towards having a Regional Maintenance Director to oversee a group of properties. So I wanted to check with you on that and see if you've also seen that taking place. And if you have, perhaps you can talk to us a little bit about that role and how it differs from a maintenance supervisor role.
Sure, it is. It's absolutely something that I've noticed. It's increasing year after year, and as the technology advances and we learn new and more efficient ways to manage our service department, this role has really starting to take a presence in the industry. And the difference really between it is that as a regional director or an area director is that your skill sets are different and they change. And most technicians start in the industry, and as they move up, their technical skills get them where they are. And then you get promoted to become a supervisor. And then once you're a supervisor, you have to realize that your technical skills are very important, but also your administrative skills are. Your ability to manage a team, time, delegate tasks, and work on projects. And so the difference between the two is when you become a regional director, you're really an ambassador between multiple properties and teams and personalities. And your technical skills, in other words, your ability to make repairs, is actually not quite as important as your ability to manage personalities, organize tasks and projects, and you have to help the team as a whole achieve the goals of the company. So you're looking at it from a very different perspective. And the person has to have very good soft skills, very good social skills, and start learning how to build really good teams and develop the culture that you want. So those are some of the differences, in addition to also having the technical abilities.
Right, certainly. I find it interesting that you say the ability to make repairs, for example, becomes less important. Certainly it's still important, I would think, for that regional director or regional supervisor to have that knowledge in order that they can supervise the work. They just may no longer be the person actually doing the work every day, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Kara. In other words, they're going to be more of a conductor, and they're going to get everything to work together. And in harmony. And so they're going to have different teams, and they're going to learn how to use different skill sets and rely on one person in one area more than another. So they have to know exactly what they're talking about, and they have to display that they have the experience and the ability. But really, they're most effective when they can deploy the people that are best at what they do.
Sure. Okay, so for the maintenance technician or the maintenance supervisor, Mark, who aspires to a role like this one, a regional role, what do you think are some of the most important steps for them to take and skills for them to build? How do they get there?
Okay, well, there's volunteering to take on new responsibilities, to me, is one of the most important things you can do. And it shows initiative, and it shows a desire to progress, but also it gives you invaluable experience. And you're going to make little mistakes along the way, and mistakes are just proof of trying. But you have to learn to be a better communicator, how to articulate your goals to the team, and so your soft skills are very important. In addition to that, learning how the manager and the regional manager look at your portfolio and how they measure it is very important. And the more an owner knows that you're looking out for their money and that you're building the best team you can, the more responsibility they're going to give you. So those are things that I would definitely recommend. And just constantly lead by example and go to training.
Good advice. Of course, I like any advice that recommends training. Have an ulterior motive there as well. All right, I'm going to change gears a little bit. Let's talk about green technologies for a moment.
Okay.
Going green, of course, has been hyped for a number of years now. I kind of feel like we haven't seen a lot of traction with it in the multifamily industry, and certainly part of me wonders if that has to do with the costs. For sure, the last couple of years we've seen really tight budgets, et cetera, so there may just not be a lot of money to invest in green technologies. I'm curious, however, what you've seen and what's happening out in the field. You visit a lot more sites than I do. What are you seeing on the green front? Is there anything that's really starting to take hold within our industry?
Well, the first two things that most people do, most companies do, is they address water conservation and then and common lighting. So anything to do with reducing water flow, water saver toilets, water saver shower heads. Some of the devices now, there's a new product that came out that is it goes on aerators and shower heads, and it requires a key to be removed. So the residents can't remove it if that's an issue. And so that's something that as an owner you can put on, and you know that the residents aren't taking them off, or at least if they do, they have to go through a significant amount of work. Um, LEDs have made a lot of leaps and bounds in how long they last, also in the cost of them. So those are the two things that you see the most. There's a product called an energy detective, and it's under a couple of $100, but you can hook it up to your building, and it will tell you exactly how many watts each building pulls. And so you can really start to quantify exactly how much you're saving versus how much you're spending. So those are the two areas that most people concentrate, where you can see the biggest bang for your buck in a short time.
Interesting. I'm particularly intrigued by that key on the water-saving devices. Just wondering how the lengths that residents may go to try to take that sucker off.
They do. Residents get creative,
Yeah.
as many of us can have seen before, and they really are resourceful. But this is a good way to significantly minimize how many times someone takes it off, and ultimately it results in savings for you.
Sure. Good. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, we are focusing on maintenance appreciation for the month of August, and I'm very curious to hear your insights on some suggestions you may have, Mark, for how the community office teams and the corporate office staff, whomever, how they can show a little bit of recognition and reward for the maintenance associates. What thoughts do you have on that?
Okay, well, I have a few, and the first one, number one, is of course sincerity, and people can read through that, but is to sincerely show appreciation. Most often when we're bought lunch, we get pizza. So if you want to be different, no more pizza. And
Sure.
we love the gesture, and we appreciate your genuine appreciation for us when we're in the field. But something as simple as I don't know, barbecue, chicken, a meal. Um, Take time to get us the same meal that you would get for your own team. Although it seems like a small detail, it really does make a difference. We probably had a pizza 50 times in the past 5 years. But we also like to go out to lunch as a team. And when you do things together as a group, you come together as a group. So even if you have to go boy, girl, go ahead and do it. You won't have the office side on one half and the service team on the other half. Simple little things, just, a thank you, a card, little things like that. Most people will keep letters, emails, memos, certificates. They put them in a file. It doesn't cost a lot, but it sure shows a lot of appreciation. So those are little things that really make a difference. But I'm sure someone likes pizza once in a while, but just change it up and we'll really appreciate it.
I think that's good advice. Yes, many of us have probably had more pizza than we ever care to admit, right? So
Yeah.
mixing it up a little bit, maybe a little more healthful lunch option would be appreciated, huh?
It would be. And I'd like to go back, if it's okay, on the conservation. And I
Sure.
want to just give you an idea. And this is one of the examples of how when you're a regional maintenance director that you're asset minded. If you're looking for conservation, that you're asset minded. And I'll give you an example. If we have 500 employees, and this is for the sake of math, if a person makes $20 an hour, that's 33 cents a minute. If you save 5 minutes a day, that's $1.65 per person, okay, in
Right.
savings. So times 5 days, that's $8.35 per week. Times 50 weeks, because everyone, generally gets 2 weeks vacation. That's $412.50 per person per year. When we had 500 employees, that was $206,000 a year in payroll, just for saving 5 minutes
Wow, $206,000 in payroll
for every five
for
minutes.
every 5 minutes saved on the maintenance side.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
So when you look at all of these things, appreciation gets people to try a little harder. The conservation makes us more efficient. And when you're a person that's in this new position and you're thinking that way, the owner is really going to try to give you the resources you need to get what you need to get done.
Excellent. Thank you for bringing the numbers alive like that. It's really
Sure.
helpful. All right, we certainly appreciate all of your insights today, Mark. Before we go, I want to make sure that our listeners know how to get in touch with you. So what's the best way for them to do that?
You can send me an email at mark@serviceteamtraining.com. It's Mark, M-A-R-K, at serviceteamtraining.com, or just visit my website at serviceteamtraining.com and just hit contact us, and I'd love to hear from you and give you any information I can.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. And of course, we will put Mark's contact information up on our blog to accompany this podcast as well. So thanks again for being here with us, Mark. Happy Maintenance Appreciation Month to you.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Listeners, thank you for joining us. That is a wrap. It's our podcast for this month. I am always interested in your feedback, so if you have any, please go ahead and send us an email to podcast@gracehill.com. You can find more information, of course, about Mark in the blog that accompanies this podcast, and you can also visit his website directly at serviceteamtraining.com. Once again, a reminder that this is Maintenance Appreciation Month, and we want to make sure that you take that to the field and spend a little bit of extra time and a little extra money, if you can find it in your budget, showing your service teams just how critical they are to the success of your community or communities. Thanks for joining us. It's always great to spend time with you. We appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to Grace Hill On Air.